before you go up as an opener, and you have to say, what is this raw crowd been through, and what are they going to take to transfer them into a audience?
Greetings, everyone. Come on in and have a seat up front for the Funny Muscle Podcast. If you're here, then you're looking to learn how to create laughs like a pro. So please help me welcome to the stage your co-host to help you do that, economics professor and open micer Chris Stifler and comedian turned author Mike Lucas.
Well, cool. The reason I called this meeting,
Yeah, what are you teaching me today? What have you been up to? Didn't you host something recently?
yeah, that's what I wanted to talk to you about. I was asked to host the Dallas Comedy Club's weekend shows, and it was quite an experience. I hadn't worked a weekend in a while. I had a really great time. It was four shows, and it was each show was different, and that's what I wanted to talk about was the fact that emceeing a show, there's a lot to it that you have to think about besides just making the crowd laugh. And most of our audience, I think, the people that benefit from our show are at the position where they're opening and middling the shows. They're doing between 10 and 20 or 30 minutes per show. They're either going up first or second. Most headliners don't listen to this type of show. They're often and running on their own journey. This is for people who are looking to get better and improve and get hired. So with that in mind, I wanted to talk about what it is like to work as a opener and what I had to think about because this kind of I hadn't done it in a while, so it just reminded me of what to look for. And I realized I had written an article about this, and I had talked to one of my coaching clients about it. So I wanted to share that information with everybody and with you, and to just uh, get more make it more possible to get hired as an opener. That's kind of the first, for a lot of the people I'm working with, the people who go to level one and level two at Dallas Comedy Club, and the people who I coach and my clients are all people that are looking to work. They're trying to figure out how to get work. And so the first thing you got to look at is you're if you're looking to open, like say at the Dallas Comedy Club, you're competing against someone like me. I'm somebody who's willing to go in there as an opener, I've headlined before and I've middled before, and I'm willing to go in there as an opener with my knowledge. So you have to do as good as me when you get up on that stage, and
So like this, is this how you do it as good as you?
yeah, with your hair flip, yeah, and the funny thing is the main point I want to make today, which is being an opener isn't just about being funny. It's not just about making that crowd laugh. In fact, that's probably the secondary part of your job. Your main job is to maintain the show. It's to set up the show and then maintain the show. And what that means is you're taking a group of strangers who are coming in off the street and all sitting together, a big crowd of people, and you're turning them into an audience as quickly as possible. And that's what your set's about. Your set is about transforming that crowd into an audience so that the audience is prepared to watch the rest of the show in a way that will benefit the comics and the comedy club itself because it's a good show. And that's what I think the mistake that a lot of people make because they're so new at it, because usually the openers are new. It's the people that are making the least amount of money, so they tend to hire the newest comics because they're the ones that'll take that job. Nowadays, I don't know anymore. I maybe everybody's dying to work and anybody will take the gig, so they might be hiring older comics to do these positions. Like in Chicago, that happened a lot. A lot of the openers were headliners and middles that were off for the week, and they're beneficial to the role because they have experience. The main job of that opener is to turn that crowd into an audience, and that's what a lot of and to represent the club, on that stage. And a lot of comics don't realize that. They're trying to be funny. They're trying to do their set, and they ignore all the parts of that position that involve getting the crowd turned into an audience, which means number one, you got to get their attention. You walk up on the stage, you got to get their attention from all chattering and talking about the bills or the drinks and their food items, talking to the wait staff, talking to each other. That maybe they're on a date and they're kind of nervously talking to each other. So you're the first one that gets up on stage and says, "Hello, the show has started." And usually an MC off stage, like the God mic, will announce you as the opener and give you at least a please welcome Mike Lucas, and then I'll walk on stage. And so everybody's attention for that moment is on me. The lights are on me. The sound is on me. And I have that first, half a minute to get their attention and to let them know I'm in charge of this show and I'm going to bring you through the whole evening. So sit back, relax, and have a good time. And then, like part of what I would do is I'd find out how, who's been here before, who's not been here before. One joke I kind of made up on the spot. When they applauded me, I complimented them and said, "You guys already know how to applaud. That's really good. A lot of people don't know that." And I pretended like I was shouting to the comics in the back, and we don't have to, hey guys, we don't have to worry about teaching them how to clap. And I said, there's probably one guy, and I started clapping my own face. So there's probably one guy in the audience that's still confused. And then I used him, the guy who doesn't know how to clap, in the rest of my show and called him back and used that as an excuse to get an applause break from the rest of the crowd who knows how to clap because this guy was trying to clap. And so it ended up being a really good way to teach the crowd as to work as a group, as an applauding group.
That's funny. So it was an applause break for applause break bit or
Yeah.
something.
Yeah. It's like meta or ironic or whatever you want to call it.
Or some sort of like shell inside of a shell of a
Yeah. It's just something I made up on the spot, but I used it in multiple shows this week that weekend because it worked so well and it was a great way to compliment the crowd. And it's kind of like overstating the obvious and sarcasm put together in terms of heightening devices. And I think that's why I got a laugh. And then I was doing the act out, which I was, applauding my own head. So I was doing a different perspective of the guy, the guy who doesn't know how to clap. It was a quick way to get them to work as a group and to laugh. So they laughed and they clapped at the same time. So that was a good bit to have in my pocket or in my tool belt that I can use to get their attention and get them to work as a group right off the bat. That's my job as an opener.
Can I pause you? Like
Yeah.
it's a rule of thumb to make the crowd clap a couple times just to why do they do that? Why do they always say give it up for the wait staff or give it up for the venue
Oh,
or
well,
clap if you've been here before?
you're teaching the crowd how to clap. You're teaching them how to work, that this is an appropriate response for something that you really like or something that's doing well by you, including jokes. And so we're trying to teach them to laugh and clap as a response to our call. And typically our call is a joke or punchline, or it could be an announcement, or it could be a tribute, to the tech guy or to the comic you just saw. And it gets them used to, again, what's the job of the audience? Their job is to pay attention, their job is to laugh and clap, and their job is to eat and drink. And so that's a very simple job that they have to do. And you just have to let them know, hey, if you want to eat and drink, we've got a wait staff here for you. Call them over if you have anything at all that you want. They'll get it for you. They're happy to do it. That's their job, and they're really good at it. And that's why there's so many people that come back to the club is because they have such a great time. And you just keep building it up like that, and you find jokes that allow you to get little laughs along the way. You tell them where the bathrooms are. You tell them that what the show might look like. Give it up for the headliner you're going to see tonight. Give it up for the middle act you're going to see tonight. We even have a guest spot I'll tell you about in just a second. And then you're giving them a big picture look at what the show's about to be while you're working your material in there. And so I'm lucky. My first joke that I do in my show right now is an impersonation. And so it's a real easy thing what's the word I'm looking for? To go from announcements to my material because I can say, well, let's get the show started. I'd like to start off by doing an impersonation, and then I do my joke. And it's important to find a joke like that you can easily start with, it to for sure laugh. I know this joke's always gets a laugh. I know it's got a tag that always gets a laugh, and I'm off and running. And so and I can do it well. It reflects like the way I'm going to be doing comedy. So they get to learn how I make
Yeah,
them laugh.
train.
Yeah, it trains them. And so you got to think about that. And you've got to have material that does that. And an experienced comic has a lot of material to draw from. And so they can begin as an opener to put the stuff up front that does that.
And so did you do a different, you did 4 different times? Is that right?
I did 4 different shows, and it's a real interesting phenomenon to work for a first show on Friday, which is 7:30, and then a second show, which is 9:30. First show Saturday is 7:30. Second show is 9:30. So 7:30 on a Friday night is so different than 9:30 on a Friday night. It's only
Hmm.
2 hours difference, but they've been drinking for 2 more hours. They've been off work for 2 more hours. They've been having conversations and laughing and creating their own entertainment for 2 hours more. So they're a harder crowd to excite. They're tired. They've been working all day on Friday night. And by the second show, they've already eaten, the food has sunk in. Now they're have to sort of do a new job as a crowd, and it's hard.
Do you recalibrate yourself like expectation wise and tell yourself it's going to take a longer to get this crowd warmed up, the second crowd on the Friday than the first crowd? Like, how do
Yeah.
you mentally prepare yourself?
You have to say this crowd is not going to carry the laughter from joke to joke the same way the first crowd will. Not at first. And remember, that's something that this is what I coach one of my clients about. I said opening the show is a different beast. I said first up, it's an ice cold crowd. So you have to remember, you're starting out with a group of people that haven't laughed at a joke as a group yet. You're the first one to do that to them. So you can't expect them to act like a crowd that's been together for a long time. You have to act, they're going to act like a group of people that don't know what they're doing yet. And you have to train them and you have to get them going. You have to make dull announcements, and so you have to somehow make these announcements seem interesting along with making them laugh. So that's your job. Your job is to be a professional representation of the club on stage, on top of being funny. It's a big deal. You have to make intros. That's another thing that I
Cool.
learned about it. Well, but just go. I want to go back real quick to the 4 shows. There is a difference between the first show Friday night and first show Saturday night. Were both like really rocking. They had more people in them, and they were a crowd that was geared up and ready to go. So it took very little to get them excited, and they were really good sets. The second show for the Friday night was a little bit lower key, but it was still a good show. It was still a fun show. But it was just there was more space in between each joke. So you had to be comfortable with that slight quiet that happens. And all three comics and the guest spot experienced that too. It wasn't just me because I'm going up first. Everyone felt that energy shift of the different crowds, and we all adjusted accordingly. And it's the same way with Saturday night. The second show was, you know, it's Saturday night's second show. It should be a great show, but it was less people, and they were hammered. They were buzzed. So they had a different sort of they were already ready to go, and but they were easy to let go if you let them. And we had a feature act that was high energy and a headliner that was lower energy. And so one of the things as an MC that I look back in retrospect that I should have done for the headliner, because the middle act had such a good set, the second show Saturday night, uh, there was a great energy coming off of him, and I wanted to give that to the headliner without hiccuping it with my own material. So I brought him right up and try to let him take advantage of that energy. Well, in retrospect, it was too much energy, and he was too subtle to follow that guy's energy that quickly. It would have been nice if I'd have done a bit to soften the blow in the middle. As an MC, that would have been a nicer thing to do for the headliner and given him something different to follow. But you could argue either way was the right move, because you sometimes an MC will try to do material in between the middle and the headliner and steal some of that thunder, and the headliner gets mad because he's like, "Hey, that's mine. What are you doing?"
Mm.
So you got to be careful. That's why I didn't want to step on his toes, so I did it that way. And then we find out later, and this is no surprise to the headliner, there's a woman there that liked the middle act better, and she was yelling it to the middle act after the show in front of the headliner, in front of the middle act, and in front of me, being really rude, being kind of like,
Oh,
drunk and like a Karen kind of a thing. And there's nothing you can do. Like it's an insult to the middle act because he doesn't. It's not a compliment to him in front of the headliner to insult my friend who I think is really funny, while trying to compliment me, even though she's making it as a compliment. But she
yeah,
was she was
interesting.
basically saying I didn't like the headliner, and the headliner was like, "Well, no shit. It's subjective. All comedy is subjective.
Huh.
Not everyone's going to like everybody." And that's the problem with a headliner is when you part of your job as a headliner is to please the most people you can and make them glad they came out to the show because you're the last one they see and it's a reflection on the club. She might not come back to the show. She might wait to see this middle act headline sometime. I don't know. I don't know what her deal is. She might be so drunk that she might not know that she's creating a disturbance because it's
Hmm.
rude. It's like someone insulting your friend because the headline is funny. He's hilarious. He's a really good guy, but he's kind of low key. So you have to be into his mode, and he's really good at getting you in his mode. But he must not have gotten this woman. She's too drunk to lull
Mm, yeah.
his rhythm. Yeah. So that idea that you have to examine each show before you go up as an opener, and you have to say, what is this raw crowd been through, and what are they going to take to transfer them into a audience that will listen to the rest of the show and laugh and clap. Another job of the opener is to do intros. I forgot how challenging that is. Is you have to go up to each comic before the show and say, is this how do you pronounce your name? Is this the right way to pronounce your name? What do you want me to say about you before I bring you up? Got to write that down on a little notepad and remember it. There's nothing worse than going, this next guy,
It's really funny. It's
really
really funny.
funny, done some stuff on
Yeah.
TV, please watch. And then
Yeah.
like the headliner, I repeated what I thought his name was, and he was like, no, it's not how you pronounce it. And
But
he
it's not on stage. This is
this
earlier.
is beforehand, yeah.
Yeah.
So he corrected me. So I had to train myself to not do it the way I thought it was, but the way it is, so that I didn't embarrass him by saying his name incorrectly. That's a real insult to the headliner or
Do
the
you like
middle act.
write it out phonetically or
I did it
like
phonetically.
how
Yeah.
so that
And
sounds in
I
your
just
head?
kept
Like,
reminding myself of how it went. And then I brought that little note with me on stage and I looked at it before I got out there. And then I said, give it up for the previous comic. And then I tried to have that intro memorized. And if I didn't, if I stalled for a second in my head, I could just look down at my piece of paper
mm,
and
little
remind
safety.
myself and then go straight back up to the crowd. So I'm not reading. But then that way I had it, as opposed to blanking and then having nothing, which hopefully you never get to that point, but you have to, think about that. Um,
What's the dynamic in the green room? Like, do you introduce yourself as the host, or like,
yeah.
say you were lucky enough to like open for like a big name headliner, and you're kind of fanboying.
Well,
uh,
it just depends. Like at a comedy club, typically the green room is open to anyone who's on the show. So if
okay,
you're the opener, the middle act, or the headliner, or the guest spot, you get to sit in the green room before the show. Anyone else, like spouses of those people, are not supposed to be in the green room. Even though they might stop in to say hi, they're not supposed to sit there and hang out. It's just a place for the comics to get their head together before the show starts and before their set starts.
I was just curious about introducing yourself to the headliner or
Oh
someone
yeah, so
famous.
you get into the green room beforehand, and then you introduce yourself to everyone as they come in. Usually you're there first because you're the opener, and so you have to be there half hour before the show. Everyone is supposed to be, but that especially the opener, so that you're there to get everybody's intros. So you just introduce yourself, tell them that you're the opener, and then when they're settled in, you just say, "Hey, can I get a intro from you?" And typically, a comic will have an intro all set up for themselves. And there's like one or two credits that they'll favor, that the most recent credits or their biggest credits, and then you'll just bring them on to that. That's a skill in itself. That's what I forgot. I forgot, like, oh shit, I gotta be good at introducing somebody and get the crowd. Because are you ready to see your headliner? I can't hear you. Are you ready? You have to do the typical MC rah-rah stuff to get the crowd going so that they're all paying attention, that they know that this is the next part of the show.
But you already have the gravitas and your not condition. What's reputation at that Dallas Comedy Club? How do you, as an earlier comic, become a? What's the pathway forward to becoming a host?
Well, first of all, you've got to have a good 10 to 15 minutes of time.
Okay.
That's the first thing. You've got to have a reputation for doing a consistent amount of time well. So when you get up there, people are like, "Ooh, I can't wait to hear what this person has to say." And so that's the first thing that gets their attention. There where they go, "Huh, maybe this person can work for us." And then you've got to, in my opinion, you've got to have an EPK, electronic press kit, or a website that is a place where you have a recording of that set and a bio and all your information put together so that you can send an owner or a booker to that page and they can check you out on their own after you text them or email them with your information and your request. And then it's about getting to know the booker and letting them know you're available and that this is what you want. And then if they don't want to work you yet, find out why. Oh, I already have 50 guys I use as my openers. You have to be better than those 50. Okay. Okay. So it takes more time. I got to just show you that I can do this. And then I got to show up a lot. A lot of times you show up and sometimes they put you on the show because you were there and they needed somebody. So that's another way. I used to get a lot of work that way. I couldn't believe it. I would just be there to see the show and they're like, "Hey, do you want to do a set?"
Hmm.
And so, you just have to always be ready to go up. That's why you don't get drunk before the show,
Hmm.
when you're going to see a show. It doesn't
And
help.
then always have 10 in your pocket that
Always
you
have
can
10 in
go
your
on,
pocket. Yep.
on spot.
You have a 5-minute set and a 10-minute spot that in your pocket for sure.
What do they pay you? I don't know, not necessarily dollar amount, but is it normally a flat rate for hosting?
Yeah,
Like,
it's so much per show. So I
okay,
mean, it's pretty typical what the Dallas Comedy Club pays 75 bucks a show for an opener, which is pretty good. So for 4 shows, I made $300. I did 10 minutes each show, and then I stuck around and introduced to other comics and closed the show. And that's the other
how you
thing
close
is
this?
you have to close the show. So when the headliner finishes, it's like pandemanium in the club because they hopefully had a big closing, bit and everyone's laughing and they all had a good time. So you have to sort of summarize that. Did you all have a good time? Was that a blast? What, wasn't that great? Get them to, agree that they had a good time. Let them know that the club's there. Let them know the website. Let them know to tip the wait staff. Let them know how to settle up if they haven't settled their bills yet. Let them know how and when to do that real quickly. Give it up one more time for your headliner, your middle act, your guest spot or whatever, or you should be your guest spot, middle act, and headliner. Let the headliner be last, and then you say, "My name is Mike Lucas," or "My name is whatever." You've been great. See you next time. Good night. And then so you have to have all that prepared. You have to have all that ready to go, and be willing to do that and know to do that each time, each show.
Do
So
you do you do you plug your books at all,
I
or how
don't.
many books to
As
sell?
a opener, I don't plug. I don't sell my books after the show, and I don't plug my stuff. In my show, both the middle act and the headliner had stuff they were pitching after the show. So it would have been ridiculous for me to be out there, hawking my books and that's the hardest lesson to learn about emceeing is it's not about you.
Hmm.
It's just plain and simple. It's not about you. It's about the rest of the show. And a good MC gets that and it's fine with that. Where you're willing to take the bullet for the rest of the crew. And that's part of it. If you can get up there to a cold crowd and you can turn that crowd into a great audience who's ready to see a show by the time you're done, and the rest of the comics have a great set, you can take credit for that. You can say, I got that crowd. I mean, the comics are going to take credit for the material and for the set they had. But you can take partial credit for that because you can say, I set that audience up for them so that they didn't have to do that themselves. Because that's if you don't do that as an opener, that's what the other comics have to do after you. And that's bullshit.
Hmm.
It's
Yep.
bullshit to do that to a couple of other comics.
They spend the first five digging out of a hole or getting the momentum in the room, and then
Yeah.
The momentum should be already rolling for them when
Should
they
always
step
be
on
they
stage.
should walk on stage and it should be there for them. Now it's not always going to be possible because again, you could be Friday night second show, they could be pissy, and by the time you're done, they could be still pissy. So that the other comics know that part of it. But your job is to transform them from being a unruly crowd to being a trained audience. So
One,
I wrote an article called "What Great Comedy MCs Actually Do" back in June of last year, and I'll just walk you through the different things and real quickly. They keep it clean. That's another thing that is important. And the headliner was clean, so it was important for me to be pretty clean in my presentation so that I didn't step on his toes when he went up there.
did
And
you ask him if he could do crowd work? Did you ask the headliner about crowd work?
I I don't think the opener should work the crowd. That's one of my pieces of advice is don't work the crowd. Talk to them a little bit, like quickly, but you can't go, hey, what do you do for a living? What do you, how long have
Yeah.
you two been together? Like it's not your job to do that to the crowd. That's because what that does is it trains the crowd that the comic talks to the audience. So
Yeah.
then that's what they expect from the other comics. And that's not fair to the other comics because they just want to do their gig.
Oh, I guess you kind of addressed the crowd, but you didn't really address the crowd. You said there's someone in the room going like this,
Yeah, you can talk
but you didn't
about
actually
them.
you didn't actually point to someone
I didn't say, "Hey,
and
what's your name, Bill?" Okay, Bill, you
yeah.
don't know how to clap. Yeah,
Yeah.
I wouldn't do that. And now once in a while, like I do a bald thing. So if I see a bald guy, I'll say, "I'll see you at the meetings." But again, I don't stop and get to know him and use that as a moment to work the crowd, because that's the job of the headliner. If they want to do that, and if they don't want to do that, it's not my job to work them and show the crowd that that's fun. Number two, make the announcements sound fun. I already mentioned that. You have a lot of announcements to do, so figure out some bits that work for those. Oh
I'll
yeah.
pause you right there. So translate that to a maybe homework for a comic that wants to beef up his or her hosting skills. They should just try to write a joke about where the bathroom is. Try to
Where
write
the
a joke
bathroom
about
is, how to tip the wait staff, why to tip the wait staff, the upcoming shows, the neighborhood, something about the neighborhood that they just parked in. All of those things that you have to talk about as a opener, the stage, the way the stage looks. You might want to comment on that. But
mm,
it's all things that you have to do to maintain the show. Try to make those fun, or at least have a fun and quick, like know what you're saying and say it quickly. No one wants to hear about tipping the wait staff for 10 minutes.
yeah, good point. So it sounds also you should maybe check out if you've never been to the show club before, take a look at what the venue looks like
Yeah.
in beforehand. Because I thought maybe you told me a bit about you did it was very high stage, so you almost did like a
Yeah.
scared of heights bit or something.
I said I'd never done a comedy set from a sniper's nest before.
Yeah, okay.
And it got a good laugh because I was set. Obviously they're all craning their necks up to see me. Again, the more you know about the club and the neighborhood, the better. Because you're in the beginning, you're the first one they see. So it's important to do bits that involve them too. I mean, that's important for all comics to do some wee bits at the first instead of I bits, do wee bits.
Hmm.
We all saw that this happened today. We're all celebrating this holiday today. We're all parked in the same spot today. We
And
all,
that's like unites the crowd somehow, like
yeah,
subconsciously.
yeah. As an opener, you unite the crowd because they go, oh, he's talking about us. This is live. This is real. This is,
So
um,
that means you don't start out with your bit about Hillary Clinton and the Democrats.
no, well, yeah, because again, politics splits the crowd, so you'll automatically split the crowd by doing a bit like that. And your goal as the opener is not to split the crowd. Yours is to unite them, you know. Not which isn't to say that you can't do that bit, but you have to make sure that bit doesn't split the crowd. And if it does, you have to call that out and unsplit them, But that you wouldn't be hired to do that spot if they didn't like what you were doing on stage anyway. I said you have to know the show, which means you got to get the intros from the other comics. You got to get the information the club wants you to announce. You've got to have all that in your head. If you have notes in your hand, you've got to refer to those as little as possible. Try to refer to them off stage and then don't refer to them on stage, but have them there if you need them. Watch the show that's up running while you're emceeing. If you can, come out to the showroom and watch some of the show. I say time the show. I had a timer going the whole time, so I knew the middle act's doing 20 minutes. I knew the guest spot was doing 7. I knew the headliner was doing 45. So I had a timer so that at any given point I could pull my phone out of my pocket and I can go, oh, they've got 7 minutes left. Oh, they've got 5 minutes left.
But did they want to? They didn't give a sig. Did they get a signal at all?
The tech guy in the back gives them a signal.
That's not you.
I don't give them that. No, that's the tech guy.
They they might have like the person who was doing 7 needed a signal at 6 or
Yeah, they
5, so
probably get
they.
a 1 minute at 6, 1 minute at 19, 1 minute at 44.
And is that something you handle, or is that something that's for the
But the
comic to
tech guy,
handle with it?
the tech guy talks to them about doing
Okay, so
that.
it's not the
Yeah,
host,
it's not
not
my
the
job.
host. If you were hosting at a brewery, makeshift show, that might be your. There's no tech guy.
It might be your job. If you're the host and you're the producer of the show, it might be also your job to give them their time in the back. So that's something you have to find out for yourself. But yeah, for sure, that's a good point. You never know. Somebody's got to give them a light so they know, how much time to do. Do your time. That's important. That happened with us in the weekend. The first show went well. Everyone did their time. And then the second show, the woman that was doing the guest spot started working the crowd,
Hmm.
and it didn't go well. And then she tried to unbury herself, so she ended up doing almost 10 minutes instead of 7. And it just so happened the owner was at the club watching the show, and he was furious. He
Really, for
almost,
3 extra minutes,
and he almost didn't let her come back the next night to do sets.
just by 3 minutes.
Yep. Yep.
Wow.
So you have to be real careful. So you do your time and get good at that. That's part of your skill. You have to keep track. That's part of being a director, is you have to know how much time you're supposed to do, and you're supposed to end on that amount of time, and get good at doing that. Stay sober. That was important. I uh I remember I had the first night I had a beer in between shows, and I felt different the second show. I felt like I wasn't buzzed, but I felt like I was coming from a different um place because I had a little bit of alcohol in me. So I had to make an adjustment, and I had to, like, fight through that. I don't want to do that. I didn't drink the second night because of that reason. But that's me. That's how I am. I'm a 60-year-old, and alcohol hits me different.
Is that beer comped? This assumes that
Yeah,
you're.
we get two drink tickets, and you could use that. The second night I used them both for food.
Oh, okay, so they actually give you physical tickets.
Yeah, and the first night I used one ticket for a beer and one ticket for a sandwich.
And
Dress,
you took the sandwich on stage with you on the stool?
yeah, I always eat in front of them while I'm talking. That's the best thing to do. Yeah, and I bring a toothpick. People like to watch you pick your teeth and clip your nails.
Chicken parm, you taste so good.
Flick. Dress like you're not the bouncer, meaning not that the
But
bouncers dress poorly, but dress so that you look like you're on stage. You have to dress according to your brand, but the idea is, don't just because you're the opener doesn't mean you can just slum it and wear shitty clothes. You're representing the club and you're representing the show, so look like it. Sell the club. Your job
mm,
as the opener is to you want them to come back. Come back and see us again. We have great shows coming up. Have you been here before? Oh, you're back. You've had a great time. You're gonna have another great time. This is the unknown secret of the town. It's out. Start telling people. Really pitch the club. We have improv. We teach classes. Go to this website. All the things that the club offers. Let them know. It's a slow word of mouth thing that you're a part of as the opener. And then hype the staff. That's a big thing. Your staff as an opener, if you want to come back, get the staff on your side. Get them tips. Get them to be treated politely. Treat them politely. Compliment them. Make them feel good about working at the club, because that's a real tough job. To be quiet during your set and get orders and to deliver those orders without making noise and distracting from the jokes is really hard. And they do a great job of it. This Dallas Comedy Club has great staff. They're wonderful. And I complimented them and tried to get them tips, during the course of the week. And they appreciate that. And they're going to mention that to the owner and to the manager. And that helps to get you rebooked. And then I sent a thank you letter. That was another thing that one of the teachers at Dallas Comedy Club taught me was it's electronic, man. You have the ability now to send emails and texts.
Hmm.
Thank the club. Put a social post up that has a picture of you with having a great time and thanking the club.
Mm, smart.
Uh, just do use the opportunity to create as much traffic as you can for that club and for those comics and for you. So that's what I learned when I did that set. It's easy to dismiss the role of a opener because they're the shortest amount of time performing, they get paid the least, and they're sometimes the newer comics. But if you can learn how to do that really well, you become very valuable. In a city like where I live in Dallas, there's 13 clubs, 12, 13 clubs within an hour of each other. So you could be opening a lot of clubs and getting that work. And that's one thing I noticed about my set. When I got up there and did my set 4 times in a row, for 2 nights in a row to paid crowds, it really upped my game. I was able to riff a little bit on my I did that. I riffed a bit about my beard. It was funny. The joke I have is this beard looks like it comes with a. I have an old gray beard, and I said this beard looks like it comes with a can of sardines and a manifesto. And that's the joke I use. And I kind of move on to my bald head, and I'm just sort of introducing myself physically. And so I added a joke to. I said my beard is. You expect my beard to go? You kids get off my lawn. Dad, you hired them to maintain the yard. Sorry, go
For
about
you.
your outdoor business. And then I had that old guy as his voice to call back later in the set because I introduced him in the beginning. So then I get to have
Clever.
the old guy comment on my own comedy as an old guy, during the rest of the show. So I riffed that. That was the first time I'd done that, and then I used that a couple of other nights, a couple other shows during the course of those 2 nights. So it's a really great way to get your material down and to add to it in little ways, but to basically get the crowd on the side of the club and on side of the show as quickly as possible.
But that's your improv background, right? You try to load the stuff, load the stage with objects and stuff
Yeah.
you can call back to.
Yep.
That's a clever.
Yeah, and yeah, I was just talking to one of my coaching clients today. And that's a reminder too to everybody. I do a lot of coaching and I have a lot of clients that I work with. And if you're struggling and you're trying to find your brand, you're trying to find who you are on stage, you're trying to figure out how do I write jokes, you're trying to figure out what are the different ways to punch the joke up. This is the kind of stuff I teach. And if you go to funnymuscle.com under coaching, you can find more information out about that with my rates and how you hook that up on your calendar. And I've had a lot of really successful people come out and get work because of our work together. And so it's uh, it, it's it's a next step if you're looking to increase your skills. It's nice to have somebody who's been through all this sort of guide you and sort of tell you where you're heading in the right direction and where you're heading in the wrong direction, and to do it kindly without making you feel bad about the whole thing.
Have you figured out how to do that? Not make them feel bad?
Not yet. That's the next step. That's the next step. But these douchebags don't care. I no, I have a really good relationship with my clients. We we laugh a lot and we grow because what they're getting good at is understanding my methodology. Like today, one of my clients, we went through 4 different bits and we broke down the premise, the setup, the misdirection, the punchline, and then the act out, and the tag and the different heightening devices. And he's getting really good at identifying those moments when other comics are doing them. So what does that do? Well, that allows him to be able to apply those to his own act and to begin to say, oh, that's how contrast works. Oh, that's how you add sarcasm in a weird way that uses funny specifics. And it's a lot of fun to do that with somebody who knows what they're doing, which I feel like I do in terms of this methodology. And so that's something that I offer. I can't remember why I brought that up in the first place, but um, that's something I wanted to mention.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Can you translate all these skills, not even for the comedy club, but for the average person? There's a lot of people that do, you host a town hall meeting, or you introduce a politician to talk at your event, or you're even like a League of Women Voter Rotary group that has to introduce two speakers at your annual, your monthly meeting. What skills could you translate for even just like being a meeting or a gathering MC?
I think the skills are the same. I think you have to understand who you have to introduce and have that information in your in your access to that information, whether written down or memorized. You have to turn a crowd into an audience when you first walk up there. So you have to have a method to do that, whether it's through jokes or through announcements. You have to make announcements, so you have to figure out a way to make those palatable. A lot of times in meetings, you're not trying to be funny, but you're trying to be interesting and you're trying to be succinct. And there's nothing worse than somebody who's saying the same thing over and over again and doesn't realize that they're repeating themselves. There's nothing worse than someone who's explaining something poorly because they don't
Mm.
understand themselves. And so get over those things if you're going to do, be an announcer or an MC at these kinds of events. Put yourself in the shoes of the crowd. What did they just experience getting there and sitting down? How was parking? Was there a big line to get in? Do they know each other? Begin to like look at those kinds of things. What's the lighting like in the room? Is it really bright? Is it a showroom? Talk about that, you know. But I say for an MC at a non-comedy event, the main thing is to be professional, be succinct, and to be loud, be heard. But know your job is to facilitate the show.
One of the things I pet peeve of mine when people ask me for my bio to introduce me, when I kind of talk a lot at town hall meetings or whatever, uh, I say don't read my bio. Here's my bio, but don't read it. Or sometimes I even send
Yeah.
them three sentences. Or it's so easy with AI now. Take someone's bio, run it. I had someone just run my bio through AI and say make this into 2 sentence intro.
Yeah.
But it sounds not like it's super stupid for the speaker to be like he graduated from Richmond 2009, and then it's like what do
Right.
you? It's like I've had
Yeah,
people just
what you
introduce.
want, yeah, you want the top two or three tidbits that make you sound impressive, that reinforce why you're there. For a comic, it's like what gigs have you done or who have you opened for that's impressive? So we go, oh, this person's been down, around the block a few times. For someone like you, it's like what are your educational accolades? What are your speaker accolades? Where have you spoken before that will impress me that you're here?
Yeah, I just don't have them plug my book, plug my. I've been on public radio or whatever, and introduce me.
Yeah,
Uh, the other thing I get bad is Chris will introduce himself. Here, Chris, introduce yourself or tell
yeah.
us where you work. Like what? What?
But
You're
to me,
putting me
that
behind.
that means you didn't give them the information that they needed, and they didn't feel like making it up themselves, so they threw it back to you. So the way to solve that problem is what you just said, which is figure
Spoon
out the
feed.
top two or three sentences you want someone to say about you, something that they can handle, something that a non-professional could handle, and have that written out, have that typed out for them, and just hand it to them. Here's my intro. Please say this. And then there's no
Smart.
question. They're not going to hand that back to you. And if they
Because
do, then it's on them.
it kind of puts you off momentum then, because you're ready for your first like
Yeah,
some open with a
exactly.
joke, then
It's
you
a
gotta like
terrible way to bring
explain
up
your
yeah, it's a terrible
yeah
way to bring up and nobody wants to talk about themselves. That's the whole point of a opener is to brag about who's about to come up. I'm excited. I
well,
can't believe we got this person in our midst. We're so lucky to have them. They've done this and this and this. Please welcome to the stage and always do the name last. Please welcome Mike.
yeah
Please welcome
that's
Krista.
right.
Yeah, I
I've
never.
also
Mike Lucas has been on TV, and you might have seen him
yeah
in the '90s.
you always say this guy has been on TV and he's got a
Yeah,
beard
just say
that
this
comes with
guy.
sardines.
Please welcome Mike Lucas.
The other thing I was good that you taught me before was that typically don't leave the stage empty. You
Yeah,
let you clap behind the podium until the
yeah,
person kind of gets behind the microphone because it's a subtle thing where as soon as no one's behind the microphone, people check their phones or they
yep,
kind of like literally like their
exactly.
attention span is so bad that you have to like subconsciously prime like and so they don't have phones in maybe a comedy club, but like at a presentation. I took that skill, and I always, if I introduce someone, stay behind the mic until they're behind the
Yes.
mic.
Great point. That's something that we teach in improv, which is you never leave the stage empty. So somebody always has to be up there. And if the stage goes empty, someone is, even if you don't have an idea, you jump up and you think of something.
I think the biggest takeaway is like that if you're hosting, you think maybe the only goal is to be funny, but really that's like secondary, the secondary goal.
Yeah, and I hate to say that as a comic because our main job is to make people laugh, but the opener has to really think about the big picture of the show, and their job is to transform that crowd into an audience. And you do that not just through laughter, but you do that through timing and through communication, and listening. All right, bro, fish.
All right, buddy. See
Beautiful.
ya.
See you.